The winds of Westfall do not howl. They whisper. Dry voices tangled in dust, telling stories no one stayed long enough to finish. I followed the path to Sentinel Hill, if it can still be called a hill. Tents slumped in the dirt, eyes hollow from more than sleep, and a tower that watches but sees nothing. A marshal greeted me, but not as a soldier, as a man who has buried too many names. "If you've come looking for Defias," he said, "you're already late." But I saw the mark. On the crates, in the hay, on a child's discarded toy. Not just rebellion, ritual. Someone has turned a broken people into a blade, and they've started sharpening it with fire. Gry and Stoutmantle sent me east, to what was once a Defias outpost, now a skeleton of old war. No banners, no guards, just the crumbling spine of a tower and the hush of fields reclaiming their dead. The place was quiet, too quiet. No Defias ambush, no resistance, only the wind scraping through broken stone. But something was watching. I could feel it. The kind of silence that leans in when you're alone. Curious, hungry. A pile of ashes beside a cold fire pit. Empty canteens half buried in the dirt. Boot prints, weeks old, maybe more. Someone had been here, recently enough to leave fear behind. But where they'd gone, I couldn't tell. The tracks wandered in circles, then vanished, swallowed by the wheat. It didn't feel like a retreat. It felt like a disappearance. Stoutmantle asked for a report. I gave him one. Empty. Deserted. Strange. He didn't flinch, only said, "That's worse than seeing them." He was right. Because when you face a man, you face his blade. When you face the unknown, you face your own doubt. That night, the sky turned red. The fires on Sentinel Hill burned high, not from attack, but from warning. The fields were too still. Even the crows stayed quiet. I walked the rampart in silence, listened to the weeds shift like waves, heard a sound, not a howl, not a voice, a scraping, like claws against bone. Too far to see, too close to ignore. Around the brazier, the guards whispered. "Moonbrook's not empty," one said. "Something's nested there." "No one comes back the same," said another, "or at all." I asked what it was. They all went quiet. Only the cook spoke. Said sometimes at night she sees shapes on the ridge, larger than men, moving without sound. Said the wheat parts for them, but they leave no prints. At first light, I took to the road that curves south, past splintered fences and lonely scarecrows that guard no crops. The wind had softened, but the silence remained. Moonbrook came into view like a wound refusing to heal. Cracked stone, boarded windows. A town not abandoned, but surrendered. And yet, it was not empty. Figures moved in the mist, slow, hunched, wrapped in rags. Not raiders, not soldiers. Families, refugees. They stared as I passed, not with anger, but with the hollow gaze of people long forgotten. Children sat near broken wells. A man stirred a pot of muddy water with the care of a priest tending incense. Some looked up. Others didn't bother. They didn't ask for coin or bread, only to be left alone in the silence they had made their home. I'd come expecting shadows. Instead, I found sorrow. The mission was simple: observe, report. But what do you report when the danger isn't blades but apathy? When the war is over but the wounded remain? I approached an older woman sitting beneath a collapsed arch. She didn't rise, didn't flinch, just whispered, "You're too late, Lightbringer. The storm passed years ago." I wanted to ask her name, to help, but what does a mace do for the hungry? What does a vow mean to the forgotten? I left, quietly, each step heavier than steel, not because of what I saw, but because of what I couldn't change. By dusk, I returned to Sentinel Hill. Stoutmantle waited atop the guard tower. "Moonbrook?" he asked. I paused. "Occupied, but not by enemies. Not the kind we trained for." He nodded slowly. "That may be worse." We didn't speak further. There was nothing more to say. That night, I wrote no report, no tally, no map. Only a single line. "We failed them once. May we not fail again." And as I closed my journal, I looked westward, toward the mountains, toward darker roads. Because this is what the light is for. Not for glory, not for fame, but for walking into places where hope has fled, and standing there until it returns.